I tell you, welcome. It's funny. This second show, Randall, I don't know how you are, but the pours get heavier. They go down quicker. We're talking football, so it's fun, right? There's some anticipation in the air, right? We got some football this weekend. What do you think, bud?
Man, it is a. Sorry, I was getting on the website too. It is a huge weekend, and in 17, I got to be at the NFC Championship game to watch the Falcons secure a Super Bowl bid. And I had been to one Super Bowl. I'd been to the Titans and the Rams Super Bowl, which I didn't have a rooting interest, so it was kind of hard. But that NFC Championship game, when Atlanta had clinched the Super Bowl trip, about as special as it gets. It's a real special weekend. And I don't know that I have, outside of my Vols winning the national championship in '98, I don't know I have a better football memory than this weekend 3 years ago.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when your team's in it, it sure is special. You're absolutely right. I've been fortunate enough. The Pittsburgh-Seattle game, that wasn't that exciting, right? I mean, Pittsburgh won, so that's great. The Pittsburgh-Green Bay game was really impressive. The Aaron Rodgers was a little bit better at the end of the game that year. But my most memorable Super Bowl moment is, of course, the Super Bowl in Arizona where they played the Cardinals.
Oh, great ending to that game too.
Well, and I'll tell you, everybody remembers the James Harrison 100-yard interception return. Everybody remembers the Antonio Holmes toe tap in the end zone to secure the game, right? But do you remember where they started that drive from, Rand?
Oh, it was deep in their own territory, wasn't it?
3 or 4 yard line. I mean, that was vintage Ben right there, right?
I thought that game was over. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I was one of the ones that was like, this is over. Let's go on our business. So, and that throw in the corner, maybe outside of Eli Manning's throw that landed on top of the head, it may be the most memorable throw in NFL history.
It's certainly one of them for sure. And again, the other one is the James Harrison interception return. That play was very memorable as well, right?
Yeah. And I'm a little older than you. I remember a Lynn Swan catch.
Yeah.
In the '78 Super Bowl.
I remember the highlights. I don't remember seeing it live. That's a little before my time, but
like I said, I'm old, Chappy.
Yeah, but enough of that. Enough of this. We got some big memories on the cusp here, right? But before we get into that, we kind of been down this coaching rabbit hole, if you will. So it's official now. We're down to one head coaching vacancy, right?
Yes.
We got the offensive coordinator from the Colts. I don't have his name in front of me. Signed with the Eagles today.
Yes.
Being here in Indianapolis, not having a dog in the fight, I'll tell you that the thing that I've noticed about Indy at the end of the year is their offense really started to pick it up and play well.
Absolutely. I think I don't know a lot. It's probably the least known of all the coaching candidates in my head. But you got a lot of energy out of that offense. That offense looked dead through about first month and a half of the season. And then somehow he got T.Y. Hilton re-involved. Jonathan Taylor found his stride. And I thought going down the stretch, Indy was a very good team offensively.
I'll tell you, again, living here in town, the interesting thing about the Colts this year is, and I think you saw it across the board, and we've talked a little bit about it, all these rookie running backs. Tom Rathman's their running back coach. And he really handled Jonathan Taylor with kid gloves early on. And, fact of the matter is they kept asking Reich, why won't you play Taylor more? Why won't you play Taylor more? And he kind of him-haul around it early on in the year. Well, Naheem fit better in this. The other guys, Wilkins fits better in this situation. And he kind of, he danced around the question. But, right around week 9, week 10, it started becoming inevitable that he had to play the guy. And when that happened, things just kind of turned for Phillip Rivers especially, but also those Colts receivers. Pittman coming back healthy really helped them out a lot.
Yes.
And of course, the third guy. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on it, but they had a lot of good options there at receiver, not to mention those big tight ends. So really good offense going down the stretch. I felt like they did the best they could with what they had, really kind of overachieved. So I feel like this is a good hire. I just don't know about it. It just seems to be a mess in Philadelphia. What's your take on that?
Well, I think so too. I really, I hear Doug Peterson they basically called him in and they had a conversation with him and Doug Peterson was tired of people messing with his program.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, you have a statue of Doug Peterson and Nick Foles in front of your stadium. He had earned a little bit more time, maybe is the right word, than he was given. But
yeah,
Doug Peterson's one of those guys going to land on his good feet.
Yeah.
He's going to get a job.
In a good situation.
Good coach.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, the thing about Peterson, from the things I've read, I just think he's kind of fallen on the sword a little bit because the things they're saying about Carson Wentz, like totally changing the play calls. I mean, if that was the case, you had to set him. You had to.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens. If I'm headed into that situation, I'm really hesitant to hitch my wagon to Carson Wentz. Just on the very discussion of him going rogue. Now there's been talk in the past, the guys doing that, Ben, Rodgers, those guys.
They've earned it.
They have earned it. You're absolutely right. I'm glad you said that, right? And I'm not saying that Wentz hasn't earned it. He has to an extent. But he's never been that guy. Put your team on my back and carry you. I mean, he's always gotten injured. I just think that I don't know. I know you're a Hurts fan, and so am I. You know that. How long can you toil with Carson Wentz there, especially with a new coach like that?
Well, I think what you said with Hurts kind of is my point. If Wentz is not the guy, you have a guy that looks like he could be the answer.
Yeah.
Now, I think a lot of us, especially in this area, and I've talked about me being in the Chattanooga area, so I got to see Hurts in college. I felt like Hurts wasn't an accurate enough passer. But once he left Alabama, we kind of wrote him off, and he went and done work.
Mm-hmm.
He hired a quarterback coach. He went and remade his throwing.
Lincoln Riley's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts to me is not the same kid that was at Alabama.
Right,
I agree. He is a full-blown NFL quarterback. I'm not playing with Wentz long when I've got him. When I got Jalen Hurts in the bullpen, what's Wentz value on the open market?
It's
not
extremely diminished.
Yeah. So, and there's also guys that just have a shortened career. Andrew Luck was great for a 5-6 years run. Quarterback's not an easy position.
You got to really want to play it, right?
Yeah. We talk about the protection. We talk about, they try to keep these guys upright. They still take a lot of punishment.
Yeah, they do. And I tell you, it's funny. I kind of sneak peek your guys' show this evening. You guys are talking about mobile quarterbacks and how they just, when they're they don't have much longevity, right?
Yeah.
I don't see Hurts in that light. I see him in a light where he's definitely mobile enough. He's able to take off with his legs. But I look at him in the same type of light as a Russell Wilson or some of those other guys that they get out of the pocket to get rid of the ball and get it to the guys who can break tackles and make touchdowns. And that's what you ultimately want at your quarterback position.
Absolutely. And that's the discussion we had tonight. And I told him when I left the show, I said, well, me and Chappy won't fight near as bad as we do. but that show's intended to be the barbershop where everybody sits and argues and fights. That's what we want.
That was fun. I enjoyed it. Want to plug it?
Yeah, it's called the Belo, excuse me. D. Swain comes first. The D. Swain and Belo show. You can find it on Facebook, Roku, Speaker, all the major outlets. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6:30, and you will hear. We vowed to stay less out of social issues and more into sports.
Yeah.
So we tried to stay away from it tonight. We did a pretty good job because we do talk about things other than sports. It's everything you talk about in the barbershop when you go get a nice new cut. Everybody's in there. We'll talk about picnic. We'll talk about frozen pizza. But at the heart of it, it's four guys that love sports.
Yeah, I tell you guys kind of hooked me a little bit when I first tuned in. I was getting ready for my 8 o'clock show, and you guys are talking about some guy wearing bedazzled jeans. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about?
It's that show. We cover high school football, and one of the guys asked for a pair of jeans, and the other guy, Bilo, pointed it out on the air. Not once, but like 8 times during the broadcast. So it's just silliness. And hey, I tell you, if you want to see Randall take some abuse, just show up. I do.
That's great. Good times. So go ahead. Finish the point.
No, my point.
Okay. So let's get back. Let's talk about this. We got one head coach open, one position open. There's a lot going on at that position, right?
Yes.
What goes on with Houston? Does Watson stay? Does he bring in his own handpicked guy? Who would that be?
I don't know. Well, I do know that Deshaun has been vocal about Eric Bieniemy. My question about Eric Bieniemy, and I'm not questioning the man in any form.
Right.
He's obviously a great football coach, but how many interviews has he been on and not got a job? So that comes back to what you hear in Atlanta. He don't sit down in that room, and I can imagine what an NFL interview is. I don't think it's just
intense.
Hey, it's a test.
Yeah,
and he doesn't come across as the guy in charge of that offense. So, and then I hear a price of 3 first-round picks for Watson, and I don't know if that's enough even.
Right, but it's too much, right?
What's the right price? I floated out is Tua in the 4th over 3rd overall pick. I mean, to me, that's a king's ransom for Deshaun Watson. So
the right price is whatever someone will pay.
Yeah, and Houston has proven. But my point to that was in another show was they could rebuild their draft stock by trading Deshaun Watson. Quickly. So, but those guys, I don't know where you have Watson. I definitely put him inside my top 10.
Oh.
Probably just right outside that top 5. 3.
I mean, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I have him above Rodgers. I have him above. I mean, obviously I got Mahomes, and my number 2 right now is Josh Allen.
Yeah, well, I'm a man crush on Aaron Rodgers, so
he's great. I'm not. Listen, what a great year, what a comeback year,
but
right?
He is 37 years old. We're starting a franchise, so there is a difference.
And I mean, those other guys in front of him, just you guys were talking about mobility versus running. Those other guys in front of him are able to run.
Yeah.
Whereas Rodgers is just elusive. And I think that's what separates, especially fantasy-wise. If we're talking about fantasy sports, those 3 guys have that advantage over him because of that aspect.
And what Mahomes does, and I was trying to – Mahomes could probably be a guy that averages 400 or 500 yards a year.
Absolutely. But why?
But why? You're Andy Reid. You don't let that kid out. And you need to get Deshaun Watson into that situation.
Absolutely.
You don't need Deshaun Watson being Kyler Murray.
And I think you saw that this year.
I think so.
Yeah. So, as much crap as I talked about Romeo Crennel, he did one hell of a job with that team. Yeah. I mean, honestly, after O'Brien left, and I know you like O'Brien, but after O'Brien left, that team wasn't half bad. I mean, you take that team and you make it a representative sample over the entire year. Now, they had a brutal schedule to start out with.
Yes. And I do like O'Brien. I might like Bill O'Brien back in the college ranks more than the NFL.
Yeah, didn't he sign with Alabama?
Yeah. And, what he did at Penn State, let's not lose sight of it.
Absolutely.
That place was the biggest mess in the history of college football.
Yeah. And nobody wins. Nobody's the guy after the guy, right?
No, absolutely. You don't want to be Nick Saban's follow-up.
Right. Especially if Nick Saban has all these problems.
Yeah.
And they get put on these stringent penalties. So for him to do what he did, absolutely.
So I don't know what happens in Houston. I don't think Watson's there.
Yeah.
I got a feeling that he's got just enough juice to get himself out of Houston, and I still think his destination of choice is Miami. I call Miami the third, I guess, entertainment city. New York, L.A., Miami, and he's an Atlanta kid, so he's 7-8 hours out of Atlanta. Huge market, and a good football team, a growing football team, I think. So I just don't know what you would do with Deshaun Watson and Tua on the same team. Obviously, you wouldn't have that situation.
Can I give you a wild card?
Go ahead.
Where did Deshaun Watson play his college football?
Clemson.
Right up the road.
Yep.
Carolina Panthers need a quarterback.
They do. Teddy Bridgewater was not the answer.
And nothing against Bridgewater. He's not the answer.
He's a good. So I talk about quarterbacks in the forum. You've got you can be the 18th best quarterback in the world, and you're the 18th best major league pitcher, and you're a multimillionaire superstar.
Yeah.
So that quarterback position, it may be the hardest position in sports to fill.
No doubt about it. And it is the most competitive position in sports.
Quarterback's a different cat.
Well, look at a guy like Andy Dalton. Comes out of college, highly regarded, goes to a bad team, played with a really bad team for a lot of years. Didn't do bad, had a couple pretty good statistical years.
Made a couple Pro Bowls.
But just like that, crappy team, drafts a new quarterback, gone. Goes to being a backup. Just like that. I mean, you are constantly fighting for your – so that's why guys like Breeze and Brady and Roethlisberger that have stuck around for 15-plus years.
Absolutely.
Don't get enough credit. The grit and the resolve to perform at the level that Tom Brady, I hate the guy, but you have to give him credit, has done. It's historical. It doesn't happen that often. And here we're looking at 4 or 5 of them, RC.
We're watching history. We have
absolutely
in our lifetime we have seen history. I was so first of all, I'm not a Brady fan. I'm a Manning guy all the way. And I used to make the argument that Manning was the GOAT. It wasn't Brady. There's no arguing about Brady anymore. 14 championship games.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is more impressive than the 7 Super Bowls.
Well, it's very UCLA-esque.
Yes.
It's very Yankee-esque.
That's what I compared it to.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, we had, in just the last, we had Brett Favre, probably a little earlier than those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Manning in the 97 class. You had Brady, I think, in the 99 class. You had that monster 2004 class that was Rivers, Roethlisberger, Manning, and a guy that gets forgot about that was in that class, Matt Shaw, just retired the other day.
Yeah.
I mean, he made an NFL check for 16 years, We've watched history. And there's, to me, Aaron Rodgers is the last of that group, kind of 37. Brady's still playing. But then there's the next group, which is all these young guys.
Right. Which look totally different, right? They look totally different.
This weekend, we're going to see the best of that. Mahomes versus Allen.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Let's cover it for 1 second, okay? You hang with. Let's get through some of these coaches because I want you to grade some of these coaches, and I know one in particular is near and dear to your heart. So, I like to tease you. I'm going to wake you away a little bit.
I was going to wear a Tennessee stuff because we hired an AD today, but
yeah.
Matt Ryan's got to go. Matt Ryan's all right.
It's funny because these teams, especially these teams that have been in this juxtaposition where they're like trying to be good for a long time, right? I'm talking about the Jets. I'm talking about the Chargers. I'm talking about the Lions. All three of those guys made coaching changes. Who do you think out of that group won? So Campbell to Detroit, Saleh to the Jets, and Brandon Staley to the Chargers. Who's the best hire there and why?
I like Saleh.
Okay.
I like Saleh that he fits what needed to happen in a situation. I don't think you could really find a guy, and we talked about it ahead of time, that kind of fit the opposite of Adam Gase.
Right.
So, in baseball, we always talk about if you've got that players manager, that rah-rah guy everybody loves, you go hire the tough guy.
An X's and O's guy, right?
Yeah. And if you've got the X's and O guy and your team's not performing, you go hire the rah-rah guy, the Ron Washington of the world that everybody loves. Well, in football, it's the same thing. The Jets have talent. And I've said, and I will hold on to it, that Sam Darnold don't need to be scrappy yet.
I agree.
You need to give Sam Darnold some time under another coach. And I think that fit from a team with some pieces and a hard-nosed coach and a coach that was very desired out in the open market. Really like that fit.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I handpicked these three teams because I think the more research I do on these three coaches, the more I like these three guys. I don't think there's a wrong answer, Randall.
Yeah.
Well, I was not a big Dan Campbell fan when I first heard that they hired him. But the more I read about him, the more impressive he is. He's never been a coordinator, which is odd. But he's this high motivator. He's this high intense guy. He's hired by the new GM. He played in Detroit.
Means something.
And he's a Sean Payton guy, right? So, a lot of these coaches have their trees have been fully developed. I don't think Sean Payton's had a whole lot of respect in that regard so far. So I think this is a really good fit for Detroit. I feel like they're going to have to be patient with him, but I think they've done just that and going out and hiring some guys behind them that have a little bit more of that establishment, that discipline, that X's and O's feel to them to kind of make this work for them.
So when I say this, it's the highest compliment I can play Dan Campbell. This kind of feels like a Mike Tomlin hire.
I was going to say that.
Which was out of the blue.
Right.
Kind of a guy. I think the Rooney family even admitted after the fact they brought in Tomlin to fill the quota of minority candidates.
The Rooney rule, yeah.
Yeah, and he walks in and blows them away and ends up getting the head job, and we're 15 years now.
Right.
And he ran one of the best franchises, and he's got a Super Bowl ring. But there's growing pains with that. And I think Mike Tomlin would tell you that even though he was successful early, he struggled in some ways, media-wise. Maybe some stuff got out in the press. I remember some very public blow-ups kind of with that team.
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead.
The one thing, and this stands as true today as it did 15 years ago, that Mike Tomlin does better than anything else. And I'm not going to say motivator. Everybody always says motivator. That burns my ass. He understands needs for his scheme. He drafts excellently, damn near every year.
Yes.
You look at what they got this year alone. They got 3 starters this year alone out of the draft. I mean, and they didn't have a first-round pick, Randall. That's saying something, right?
Yeah, I think we'd all agree they stole a first-round talent in Chase Claypool that just fell to their lap.
And I'll break some damn news to you right now. Highsmith is a first-round talent too. Bud Dupree walks because of Alex Highsmith. He's that good a player.
I don't have much knowledge of him yet.
So he stepped in when Dupree got hurt and really outperformed expectation. He needs to put on a little weight, get a little bigger. He played at Charlotte, and he's just one of these high motor guys. He never stops moving, and it drives. He's smaller than tackles, so we can get it up underneath him. I think he's a really good compliment to T.J. Watt. He makes Dupree expandable. He started from the moment Dupree got hurt through the playoffs. So, again, we're getting a little off track, right? But I feel like going back to Campbell, having that football knowledge and being motivator really kind of ups the ante a little bit when you're developing your team. And he's got some good pieces there, right?
Right.
So it'll be the other guy that I really, the more I talk about or the more I read about, the more I like is Brandon Staley. Have you done much research on him?
No, I've not.
Yeah.
I know just enough about him to know he was hired today, and he came kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah. So the Rams defensive coordinator, called by his colleagues a great football mind. The thing I like about Staley is he's self-proclaimed. He likes to live on the edge. He likes to think schematically differently. And I think you know me well enough to know that I kind of think that way from a fantasy perspective, right? So I love when you're trying to exploit things and do things in a way that other people aren't even thinking about yet. To me, automatically, right off the bat, I like you. You got to think about him being in LA with the Chargers. They have this great offensive talent, right? And they've got a lot of defensive talent as well. If you think about who they got to play in that division, you're going to have to play Mahomes every year, twice a year. I love the fact that they brought this defensive intense mind into the scheme there.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. So I was thinking that the hire was going to go completely 100% opposite of that. I will be honest. I thought the hire was going to be the other side of the football, but it makes sense what they did. It also, I thought that would be the job that was the easiest to fill. Turned out they maybe took more time to fill it than most people did.
Yeah.
But you got to feel the other side of the football is in pretty good shape, even if you do nothing.
Yeah. Because the talent's there. They just need schemed up, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I just pulled him up. The first 3 articles I pull up are talking about how excited he is to make sure to connect to Justin Herbert. So let's not get lost in that, right? He's emphasizing building that relationship, building that rapport with his young quarterback, not letting him think the offense won't run through him. And I think that's important too.
That's huge for the whole team and the concept of the team and where they want to go.
An improvement.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about, right? So I think you said this last week or maybe the week before. The Chargers, to me, could be playing this weekend this time next year.
They could be, very much so.
They're that close.
And maybe closer than anyone else that just filled a vacancy. I was shocked. I think some people, including myself, was semi-shocked that they removed Anthony Lynn.
Yeah.
When the season ended, did you think, okay, Anthony Lynn is out?
Yeah, it's a weird season, right? Because when they I kind of went back and forth. So ultimately, the last 2 years, his record was not great. I think it was 12-19 or something like that. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. I feel like they really botched the whole Tyrod Taylor, Justin Herbert deal at the beginning of the year. And I think he really lost a lot of credibility when he said he's just going to sit Herbert for the entire year.
Yeah.
It showed immediately that that was a bad decision. So at that point, if I'm a Charger fan, I'm saying this guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Especially given the fact that they haven't been living up to expectations the last couple of years, especially with the talent they have.
Right.
So I was a little surprised, but not terribly. Not terribly. I just feel like, I'll tell you what surprised me is that Cincinnati had to come out and give a vote of confidence to Zach Taylor. But that's just the NFL these days.
It is.
I mean, that's a team. If you could look pre and post Joe Burrow injury, yeah, they weren't winning a lot of games, but they were sure as hell dynamic. They just needed some more talent, and that takes time.
Right. I agree.
So I mean, really excited about what Staley brings to the table there. I agree with you. I think Salah is an excellent hire, and he's probably got next to the Chargers the most talent to work with. And then, of course, like we said, Campbell's a good hire. The one guy that we didn't talk about purposefully is your boy down there in Atlanta. I know you're rather keen on Arthur Smith. Why don't you give me some perspective?
So, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get us linked on one of the other websites. So we're having a little trouble with the website working. So Arthur Smith, I was shocked when I found out exactly who Arthur Smith was, and I guess I just never paid attention to realize that he's the son of Fred Smith, CEO of CEO of FedEx. And excuse me, I'm trying to clear my throat here for
Clear it out, man. Get a drink.
This is 3 hours for me. I know it's getting long.
I know. I'm with you, brother.
So,
but it's fun. That's why we do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Fred Smith is legend in Tennessee. Fred Smith, I mean, he's probably the single biggest, not entrepreneur in the state of Tennessee, but one of the most philanthropic guys that's ever graced our state. Arthur Smith's a guy that never had to work a day in his life. And then you read his resume, quality control assistant at North Carolina, quality control with the Washington Redskins. You know what a quality control job is?
Yes, I do.
It's not glamorous at all.
I know. That's what I do, brother.
I mean, it's tough work right there. Then he went to the Titans, tight ends coach, co-offense. And he, he's 38 years old, and he's just worked his way through the ranks. Unpopular hire in Atlanta, I think.
Right.
I think the whole city was so locked in on Bieniemy that they couldn't see the writing on the wall. I think it was Arthur's blanks. I would be surprised if with the fourth pick, the Falcons take a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, they could go a different direction, but I think this was a choice to attempt to win one more time with the group of players they have together. So we'll see what happens in the long run, but I like the hire. 38 years old, offensive tools galore in Atlanta. If you're going to rebuild, you do it now and give Coach Smith a couple of years to rebuild. There's still no GM in Atlanta, so you got to find a GM that can work with a head coach now. So I thought it was a B+ hire, but you still got to remake the roster a little bit. The first thing he talked about was running the football, and I love Todd Gurley, but at 27 years old, his career is over.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that second, third round, you're going to have to go find one of those running backs that can carry the ball. You're going to have to trade back in. And I would love to see the Falcons trade down if they're not taking a quarterback and get multiple picks in the first and second round. But we'll see. I'm excited. He is not the guy I wanted, but I really started digging deeper, and I realized, maybe this is a guy that got there on his own.
Yeah.
You know, my first thought was, you know, his dad could buy a football team.
Silver spoon.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem that's where he came from.
No, I think that's a good assessment. And, you know, being a great offensive mind, you would think that would be the first thing he'd want to attack. Obviously, their defense needs a lot of help. And that's going to be something they're going to have to attack. But, you know, if you bring in an offensive coach like that and you're starting fresh, I agree. You kind of hope a guy like Josh Fields is there. You kind of hope, you know, someone that the fan base can kind of get behind is there and build upon that, right? Because, you know, to me, there's no doubt that you have pretty good receivers in Gage and Ridley. And then Julio Jones is just kind of a chip, if you will.
Yeah. I mean,
so you know you can kind of make things work pretty easily there, especially on offense. Defense is going to be a little bit more of a challenge.
Right. Especially if you don't get some pieces in this draft, you're probably stuck for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, if you this is a draft, you're absolutely right. That's a good point. This is draft. You don't want to make a mistake in this draft.
Absolutely.
And there's some potholes there. I heard you guys talking about Kyle Trask.
Got a huge Florida fan on her.
What I got you separated from your SEC boys. Give me your honest opinion on him. Is he a first round pick?
Backside. He's not played a ton of football. He's a great athlete. You know, I sent you my notes, and in my notes I said I really, really like Mac Jones all of a sudden. So
yeah.
I'm going to give you a little story. I was actually discussing this with an Alabama friend of mine, and he said, well, why do you have Mac Jones down 17 or 18? I was like, good player, but he's not Justin Fields. He's not this. He said, I'm going to cut up 20 minutes of film and send it to you. So he did. Mac Jones has got an NFL-ready arm today. So I saw the CBS Sports line had Mac Jones up to fifth.
Yeah.
I think that moves Trask up, fifth or sixth, I think it was. Moves Trask up, but it doesn't necessarily move him into the top 10, 15. What they had in the mock draft was basically New England moving up to the 6th or 7th pick and taking Mac Jones. So
that's crazy.
I think he's the next quarterback off the board before Trey Lance at this point.
I think he falls. I mean, I do. I mean, you know, even boy, have you watched that kid from BYU?
Oh yeah.
Man, he looks good.
I think there's a shot that he goes with the second pick, even above Justin Fields. So there's three quarterbacks at the top of this board. There's some question about Zach Wilson's background and how it relates to Johnny Manziel a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if the kid is the nephew of JetBlue money. He's earned his position, and if I would be appalled if somebody said, "Oh, I'm not gonna." I'd be equally appalled if somebody said, "I'm not going to draft this kid because he's poor."
Right.
I'm not going to draft this kid because he comes from money. You know.
Right. Yeah. No. And I mean, look. Just look at the tape, like you said about Jones. I mean, just look at the tape. The things that he does is very, very unique. You know, very. I don't know. Josh Allen.
Yes.
That type of player. You know, maybe not quite as mobile, but able to get out and do some things out in the open field.
Absolutely. I love his film. There was a lot of talk about with him in Atlanta. I don't necessarily love his. So there's players I want my team to draft, and there's players
fit, right?
Yeah. And, if the Falcons are not going to take Justin Fields, and I think it has everything to do with stuff as much off the field as on the field. If you're not going to make that change and we said it on the other show tonight, Justin Fields sells his salary in jerseys a year in Atlanta.
Yeah.
If you're not going to Justin Fields, I just don't like the fit with Zach Wilson and hopefully the Falcons. I really would like this team to try one more run with Matt Ryan. He's 36. I think he's got a 4 or 5 year window in him. I don't see Matt Ryan. Let me take that back. 40. If he could get to 39 or 40, 3-4 more years, one 4-year contract signing period, because that's the normal, 4 years and rebuild now in the NFL. But it would take a quick roster overhaul on that defense.
Yeah. And that's what, it's kind of the same thing with the Steelers. With Ben at his age and as much money as he's making, it's just really, really hard for them to make the rest of the team work with him at $41 million cap hit.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan's at a $30 million.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan, I looked at this, and Chappy, we're in the age that $30 million is not even a top 10 quarterback pay.
Oh, it's crazy.
I know.
It's insane. I was talking about, so I don't know how much, if you got to see my baseball show, let's talk about salaries in baseball. Did you know Garrett Cole is making $1 million less this year than the entire payroll of the Cleveland Indians?
That's ridiculous.
Cole's making 36.1 and the Indians are like 37.3 or something like that.
Yeah, and
how do you compete?
You're a Pirates fan, small market team. It's hard. Atlanta is even a medium market team that has a few of those big contracts. But you got a discount on Freddie Freeman and Ronald.
I talked about that tonight, buddy.
And Ozzie Albies. You let them out of
Acuna
those contracts, and basically ate a bunch of front side money, so you could keep this team together 6 or 7 years.
Yeah,
the Braves were active in the George Springer market and couldn't come up with the money to sign him. So I just don't want to see that become the norm in football. And you've seen a regression, I think, in other position salaries. It's not.
Yeah.
You don't have the quarterback making $5 million, the running back making $5 million. It's more like 30 and 7.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that's something that it will be interesting to see what happens after this year. I talked a little bit about it from a baseball perspective, where you weren't able to, bring in those 60, 70, 80,000 tickets at $100 a pop, that you weren't able to sell $120 jerseys at the stadium or $15 beers, or like, that's a lot of money every week that they couldn't. Now they have that lucrative television deal, of course. But it's going to be interesting to see, like, because of baseball, what it's done is it's really put the onus on the owners to say, are you in or are you out? You look at the Cubs, you look at the, a lot of the teams, really. I'd say about 75% of the teams are looking at getting, the Nationals are full of Cubs and Pirates now, Randall. So, if you're a team like Toronto and you're going for it, bravo. But, the Braves are one of the teams I was talking about. I know we're not doing a baseball thing tonight, but being really well positioned, because they're at 117 million or something like that, which puts them right around the middle of the pack. But they've got all these really cap friendly contracts, and they've still got a pretty good farm system, right? So really, I think that's kind of the new age of football, how that's going to work, where these teams are going to try and get young with established talent and then build depth behind it. So, it's going to be hard for teams like the Steelers and the Falcons, especially with those big contracts.
Well, and Matt Ryan got paid for his MVP year, and that was a great year. Julio Jones got paid probably for career services.
Yep.
There's a point where you pay the face of your franchise probably more than he's actually worth as a player. But, yeah, in Devontae Freeman, you're sitting on a ton of cap money.
Right.
But he got paid in Atlanta too.
Yeah.
You've got to, and even the Braves is the example we're talking about. the Braves desperately need a frontline starter,
Yeah.
but they don't have the finances to go out and compete for a Corey Kluber or a Garrett Cole or, the Yankees can sign everybody these days. So
yeah.
But
Well, the Padres too, apparently.
Yeah. How, I don't know, but they do.
Well,
the Padres may have to break up that team in 3 years. This may be 3-year run, 5-year run.
They're so deep, Randall. They're so deep. They got 7 players in it. We're getting on a baseball team. They got 7 prospects in the top 100. The Pirates got that Hudson Head, 19-year-old center fielder, was their 9th best prospect in the organization. The first prospect outside of the top 100 in MLB pipeline. That's deep.
They just made a huge trade with Tampa and sent 2 great pieces.
Yeah.
To Tampa.
Yeah.
So and the NFL has not been a trading friendly market, but I think it's becoming more and more that you're going to see. The NFL was always a draft pick trade market that you swap draft picks and move draft picks. You see more big name players being moved, and moving locations, and NFL. I think NFL is just finally caught up with it. MLB, and hey, we haven't even talked about the NBA, where the 11th man on the team makes $20 million.
Yeah. Well, and that's that's crazy, and the NBA has done a great job of going international, of exploiting things, in that regard, and give them credit. I think, and honestly, it's probably the most sustainable of the 3 sports, right? You don't have CTE, you don't have, the longevity of 4 and 5 hour games, and it's pretty cut and clean, so it makes a lot of sense. But to me, it's clearly my 3rd favorite sport, but that's preference. I know.
I'm not an NBA guy. I'm a college basketball game
guy,
but
same here.
You see that LeBron James and Anthony Davis don't play on the second side of a back-to-back. They realize they're just the regular season's just to get into the playoffs.
Yeah,
when they
to make money.
Yeah, it's
to make money.
It's a different thing, and people say MLB is an easy. MLB may be the worst grind when you talk about
no doubt about it.
Games.
No doubt about it. No question. But I mean that's what's great about it, right? And I talked about that too. 60 games just isn't long enough.
No,
it just isn't long enough. You can't work out of slumps. You got guys like Jake Cronenworth, who he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he gets off to the super hot start, and then his numbers look like he's something that he's not. I mean, it's really going to be a mess going into this year trying to determine the haves and the have-nots because the numbers are just so skewed.
And Freddie Freeman was on such a roll in 60 games.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see what Freddie did over 162.
Right.
And I know he won the NL MVP, but I thought he was, after 60 games, was swinging as good a bat as I've seen.
Yeah.
In a long time.
Yeah. And after going through what he went through with COVID early on in the season, that's really commendable, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Let's talk about these games. I didn't miss anything, did I?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. You give me that look like you wanted to talk about, so I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
No, I just changed gears in my head because
that was it. You were hopefully upshifting.
Yeah, I love these games.
Yeah, no. So I've built this. I don't know your thoughts on it, but I've built this as the ghosts of QB's past versus the ghosts of QB's present. Where do you want to start?
Let's start in Kansas City. Let's talk about the present.
Okay. Yeah. I'll let you go first. Give me some thoughts.
Well, I said it on the other show, and kind of you're going to rehear a spiel that I said earlier. Mahomes or Mahomeless, I think the Buffalo Bills gets the win. As a matter of fact, I really like the way the Bills are playing. And, last week you made the point that the Ravens went into that game, and let's not take it away from the Ravens. They were playing great.
Yeah.
And that was a great game.
Yeah, it was.
That could have went either way. But Buffalo made one more play, and even though we didn't think about the home field advantage, and if there wasn't 70,000 people there, the weather played a big part of that game.
Yeah.
A couple of wide open receivers got missed, and of course, Lamar Jackson getting hurt.
Right.
But I just feel like the Bills are kind of a team of destiny. Kind of like last year, I went through and I was like, Kansas City's not going to lose. Kansas City's not going to lose. I feel like the Bills, I feel like Josh Allen took a huge step.
Yes.
And I absolutely will challenge anybody that Buffalo's receiving core is on par with Kansas City's at this point. So
that's a statement.
Great shootout. Mahomes don't play different game, but give me Diggs, give me Cole Beasley, give me John Brown, give me Josh Allen to make one more play than the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, if Mahomes don't play, everybody needs to get to the DraftKings now and go ahead and put them a book bet on Buffalo while you're getting 3 points. Because Chad Henne cannot beat Buffalo.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'll tell you, I had 2 big takeaways from that. I agree with you. I'll start by saying I think Buffalo wins, and I hate saying that because you know I love Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, you're a Mahomes guy.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, it's funny because as you're watching these games, you kind of sometimes you just pick things up and you're like, oh yeah. So I'm sitting there watching. First off, okay, I'll get to the point. The difference in that game last week between Buffalo and Baltimore was Buffalo's defensive line.
Absolutely.
They dominated a really good offensive line from Baltimore, and I'll go a step further. The ends sealed the edge all night long. He couldn't get outside of the pocket, and that was the difference in the game. So who's the scheme there? Who's the scheme there?
Do what?
Who's the scheme there? Who's the mastermind behind that defense?
I think it's a little bit McDermott himself. I mean, that seems to be a little bit of what I felt. I felt like once they established that they could get there with 4, that they were able to do whatever they wanted to with the Ravens. I do like Buffalo's secondary. I think they're able to cover. I think it's a better zone team than a man-to-man team. So the challenge for Andy Reid is how to set down, get receivers to set down over the zone. Or is it Andy Reid comes into this game and says, I'm going to beat you over the top. I'm going to beat you over the top with Hill. I'm going to beat you over the top with Hardman. I'm going to beat you over the top with my weapons. Or is it he's going to throw the ball 25 times to Kels and say, go sit down in a zone? I tend to go with he's going to throw it deep often. And I just don't – I just don't like the way Kansas City's playing. Also, last year, Kansas City got so much more production out of the running back position. I just feel like now that's a liability.
Yeah. So I guess for me, it comes down to this. Tyreek Hill struggled against Buffalo. He's been shut down both times they've played in the last 2 years. Leslie Frazier, to me, doesn't get enough credit. Remember him all those years in Minnesota? They had those really good defenses.
I was struggling with who was there. Glad you said
it. It's one of those things. I'm sitting there. I mean, I knew he was there, Randall. And I'm sitting there watching the game that last week. I see him all animated on the side. I'm like, holy crap. That's the dude from the Vikings. That guy's a good coach. And you could see it in the team. They weren't that good at the beginning of the year. But he's coached them up. They've gotten better as the year's gone on. The other part of it is, and again, I was on the KC thing until about 3 o'clock this afternoon. But I was struggling with it, right?
Yeah.
The other thing about it is, to me, I don't care if Mahomes is practiced. I don't think he's going to struggle if he's not 100%. Which I think it's pretty clear he can't be 100%, right?
The ankle bothers me worse than the concussion does.
They both bother me. but fact of the matter is, the way the Buffalo got after Baltimore and a much more mobile quarterback, to your point earlier, in Lamar Jackson, who's to say they don't get after Mahomes the same way?
Very good point. Now that you say Leslie Frazier, that does look like those Vikings defenses.
Changes things, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I was struggling, and I was like, well, McDermott is kind of an offensive guy, but he invested. What they have done in Buffalo is invested heavily on the defensive side of the football.
Yeah.
The trade for Stephon Diggs, and if you sit down and say Kelsey and Hill, they're a lot better. But if you tell me Hill, Hardman, Sammy Watkins versus Beasley, John Brown, Stephon Diggs, I like that.
Yeah.
The one wild card to me is and he's capable of it. Travis Kelce is the one tight end that can take over a football game.
Yeah.
Maybe besides George Kittle in the NFL.
Right.
So I just feel like it's Josh Allen's time. And I hate to watch shows and they say, well, they're just due.
But
City's just due for a little bit of slap.
Let me tell you who to watch out for in Kansas City. I don't know what the prop bet is. Sammy Watkins is completely healthy.
That's a scary proposition if that's true.
If Tyreek Hill continues to struggle against this defense, you could have a really big game out of Sammy Watkins.
Absolutely.
I'm sure his prop's probably pretty low. You might want to take the over. Whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But I was listening to John Hanson this morning talk about Sammy Watkins is completely healthy for the first time in a long time.
When Sammy Watkins is healthy,
they're a different team.
They're a different team.
Yep.
Very much so.
No doubt about it.
Because as much as Hardman and some of the other guys can stretch the field, nobody is Sammy Watkins.
Right. Exactly. Because he's big, right?
Yeah.
He stretches the field and he's big. Not many that's Mike Evans type talent, right? So
exactly.
That's the one wild card there for me. From the Buffalo perspective, it really has stops and starts with Josh Allen to me. Your point, Cole Beasley's had a great year. Stephon Diggs has been great. I thought Dawson Knox would be better this year.
I did too. But now I did read a report John Brown's healthy for the first time in a couple weeks.
And that's a big one too. I mean, that's a guy who, there's no denying his speed, right?
No better football team when John Brown's healthy. Just like not the same impact, but it's a different impact.
Right. It opens up the offense. It takes the lid off, right? Because you can't cover him deep. Nobody can. If you give Allen enough time, Brown's going to beat you deep. It's like Mike Wallace when he's back to the Steelers. You can't cover him. You might cover him once. You might cover him the next time. But that third time, he's going to get open. And you're going to find him. So I'll tell you, 54 is the over-under. We pretty steady on the over here?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that, we always talk first one to 20 wins.
Right.
Might be the first one to 35 wins.
Yeah, I mean, it's 54 kind of feels like a go to bed at halftime.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that's the safe bet here. -3 could go either way, right? I mean, thoughts on that?
If you catch Mahomes if Mahomes comes out, the number is going to jump to what, 7? 6, 5? Uh,
If he doesn't play, you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I'd say higher than that.
So
I'd say higher than that. If Mahomes doesn't play, it's a double digit. I mean, that's just my take. If Mahomes doesn't play, like you said earlier, the Bills are a sure lock.
The other thing I think I like in this game, Chappie, you kind of covered the over. I have been on these prop bets through the playoffs. Hey, and if you don't, I'm a DraftKings guy. I still love it. I've been on a bad run, so I've been playing some props just to have some fun. It's similar to DraftKings, and
Right.
I have a feeling that Travis Kelce's going to have a big day. And you're going back to that Hill struggled in these games,
right?
And I like that Travis. I think it's 8.5.
It's
I
a
can
lot.
see him getting 12 or 13 catches in this game.
Yeah.
So I like that, but I like the Bills laying 3.
Yeah.
I think that number, you could push on that number. So I mean, you could absolutely push on that number.
Sure.
So if you catch it at 3.5, or you want to buy it up a half, 3.5 feels a lot better to me than 3.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Want to give me a score?
38-35. Big number.
Yeah. No, I was going to go 42-38. I was going to go the Bills as well.
That'd be a fun game to watch.
Oh, that's, the other one could kind of be a little bit, not as interesting. But, you never know. I mean, so do you like the ghost of or QB's present and the ghost of QB's past?
Yeah, I saw that earlier, and I was like, yeah, I like that.
Okay, so let's talk about the ghost of QB past. Brady. So I put 138 years old for Brady, 43. Rodgers 38, right? I didn't fact check that. 2 old guys. Go ahead. What do you think here? What's your take on this one?
So it's 2 first ballot Hall of Famers. I think Rodgers is 37. I don't know.
Yeah,
we were fighting on the air about it tonight. It's the only reason I know this. But one of them's still in their prime, and the other one's past it.
Right.
And it's Green Bay, and it's going to be cold. And I think Green Bay's lost 1 playoff game in the history of the franchise, and that was to Michael Vick and the Falcons back a few years ago. Also, it's coronation time to me, and I do think I won't give I don't want to give my Super Bowl pick, but I'm kind of going to give my Super Bowl pick.
That's okay. I won't tell anybody.
Aaron Rodgers is got to finish the resume, and Chappie, you can kind of talk to me about this one. A 3rd MVP, a 2nd Super Bowl. It just feels more complete for Aaron Rodgers, and I just think he's going to get it done this year. And I love the way Green Bay disassembled, to me, the best defense in the NFL. You've got Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. I don't think Donald played. But you've got just LA's got defensive players everywhere on that field. And Rodgers was just cool, calm, and collected. Yeah. Alan Lazard looked healthy for the first time. I think Alan Lazard was a guy they went into the season thinking he's our number 2.
Yeah.
And he couldn't stay healthy. Aaron Jones didn't have quite the game I thought he would have, but he was still effective. I just think Green Bay is the more complete team at this point. I like Green Bay at home. If this was in Tampa, I might be leaning the other way. Give me the cold weather and give me the Packers.
Okay. You got wild cards?
The wild card to the game to me is Leonard Fournette, Ronald Jones. If Tampa can go up there and run the football straight at Green Bay, changes the game. Because Green Bay wants to throw the ball. Green Bay is Green Bay. But Tampa may have the better backs built for a cold weather, snowy, bad weather game. Leonard Fournette in the rain, snow, God, what a monster.
Yeah.
So
He's healthy too, right? That's not been the case all year.
Yeah. Also, one more is, I love Mike Evans. I love Chris Godwin. I'm not the biggest Antonio Brown fan in the world, but Antonio Brown is unique in the fact that he's kind of like Watson.
Yeah.
His stat line can be 3 for 91 and 2 touchdowns. So that's the other one. But to me, if Tampa runs the football, say Tampa has 150 yards rushing, might be a long day for the Packers.
Or the other side of the Antonio Brown coin, he could get busted with a blunt at the strip club right before the game.
Absolutely.
Either way.
I'm a big fan of the crazy receiver. I love Terrell Owens. I love some of those crazy antics of Ocho Cinco. Antonio Brown just seems truly crazy.
He is, yeah. He's your ex-girlfriend crazy, right?
Yeah, and Ocho Cinco, and Terrell Owens just felt like they were trying to get paid money, being a character.
Yeah.
I really don't think you want to trust Antonio Brown to babysit the kids anytime.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Brady loves him though, and that's all that really matters in that environment, right?
Absolutely. And Tom Brady still is Tom Brady.
Right. If he trusts you, he's gonna throw it to you.
I think it's Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
If he's got to make one play, I think the ball goes to Antonio Brown.
Totally. That's his boy.
That's his boy. Gronk's his boy.
Yep.
And my friend,
but Brown's better than Gronk right now.
Yeah. My friend Austin Frills, played.
Yeah, I know Austin.
He called it before the Tampa game last week. We were debating some DraftKings around, and he goes, Gronk's going to get his 1 or 2 passes in the end zone.
Right.
He's going to have his 1 or 2 plays that if he catches the football, he can change the game. And Gronk got his 2 corner targets, just like he called it, almost the exact situation. So if you're playing DraftKings, Gronk's a cheap option, and he's going to get 2 or 3 red zone targets at some point. So, I really despise Tom Brady, but it's Tom Brady. He's made me eat my words so many times. And when I say despise, I want to correct that. I despise Tom Brady as a player. I respect Tom Brady, the man. So I still, though, going with the Packers.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to dig a little bit, trying to be a little bit different because you're spot on with Leonard Fournette. You're spot on with the game. I think it's clearly Green Bay. I think this is one though. The 51.5
feels high.
It does. This feels like a game that might get away from Tampa at the end. And I say that just because the way that Green Bay is able to they're just surgical on offense.
Yeah.
That offensive line, that's one thing I'll say. I talked about it last week on this show. I thought the Rams offensive line would outperform the Packers offensive line. They flipped the script. I've not seen that offensive line play that well all year long.
And without probably the best offensive lineman in the NFL. Exactly.
The camaraderie there is really something to behold. And I'll tell you, talking about coordinators, Green Bay's offense, I think Nathaniel Hackett's his name.
Yes.
Is going to be one of those names next year that's going to be high on an awful lot of lists.
Absolutely.
Because what he's done with Aaron Rodgers this year, one, getting to buy in, right? Because that's been proven in the past that it's not the easiest thing to do. But then maximizing, I'll say it, not the most talented team.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll see your Kelsey prop. Alan Lazard prop to me this week. The yards. I don't know what it is. Lazard has a big game this week.
I think so.
And I say that because Tampa's second corner has really struggled all year long. And I don't have the name, I like to have my names in front of me, but the second corner for Tampa Bay has really been the pick point on that defense all year long. And I look for them to really expose that with Lazard and Valdez-Scantling.
In Tampa, I know if I'm Tampa, I'm double covering, I'm zoning man, I'm bumping, I'm doing everything I can to put Devontae Adams. I'm playing 9 on 10.
Right.
Trying to take, and you can't take him out. And Chappy, that's the question I have for you. Is he the best receiver in the NFL right now?
Without a doubt.
So I'm trying to take him out of the game. I'm trying to bother him. And you could see, I've always been a fan of Alan Lazard. I really thought he was, he almost made my list of guys to write down for next year.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point, right? Because his injury wasn't one that was, it's kind of freakish. It was his sternum or something like that. I don't, that's not something that's going to linger. Again, the biggest thing is with Aaron Rodgers, if he trusts you, you're going to get it.
Absolutely.
And he trusts Lazard.
The same with Brady. It's hard, Brady trusts AB.
Absolutely.
And I thought at times in the Saints game, and I love Chris Godwin. He's going to be a 10-year All-Pro. I doubt it whether Brady trusted Godwin and Evans at times. Evans not so much. Godwin, there was a couple of times I was like, he just don't want to throw him the football.
That's why I think Godwin leaves, if I'm just being honest.
Valid point. The one kind of crazy bet that I've been beating around in my head on this game, if the weather, as I'm going to check the temperature.
Right.
If you're a West Virginia guy, I'm not much of a cold weather guy. If the temperature is super low, I'm going to play the under in the first half, assuming that it's going to take them a little while to get
accustomed.
Yeah, if it's 13 degrees, they're not going to move the ball in the first couple of drives.
Yeah.
So
see, on the other end of that though, Randall, I feel like that's where the Packers will want to pounce. Yeah. If it is cold, that's where they'll be ultra aggressive because they're used to it. And I think that Rodgers and Adams especially will really want to just capitalize on that mental advantage over the other team early on. I'll tell you, it's really going to be almost a contrast to side because, like you said, if Fournette, it's almost like Fournette was built for this game.
Absolutely,
they signed him for this game.
Absolutely,
and you're starting to see it, right? These last couple of weeks, you're starting to get more involved in the offense. He's fully healthy. He's starting to get more touches. They're bringing him into the passing game. This screams to me a Leonard Fournette game.
And let's not forget that, what was it, 2 years ago, Leonard Fournette was pretty much the whole Jacksonville Jaguars offense.
Yeah.
That went to the AFC Championship game.
Right. Blake Bortles.
Frozen field, bad field, it also slows the elite speed down, and everybody plays at the same speed.
Yeah.
You give me Leonard Fournette at the same speed as everybody else, I'll take him all day. That also plays to something that I've been playing in my head. You asked me a wild card. Could you see Tampa, who's got Bray, you've got Gronk, could you see them play a little more two tight ends?
Well,
and get them into the game and kind of play a little less Evans and Godwin outside.
It's so funny.
Football and throw the football.
Yeah. When you were looking at, when I was looking earlier, I was looking at Brate's stats because I was totally going to go there. He's one of those guys that kind of seem like gets forgotten about, right? And he's always going to be a red zone target. He's always going to be the guy that if you have to roll away and double cover elsewhere, he's going to find the soft spot in the zone and be open. Brady knows that. He trusts that about him. I absolutely agree with you. Brate could be huge. And I'd say huge for Brate is 3 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown, right?
Absolutely.
But
So
rest assured, it's going to be a timely touchdown.
This game is the one game. I feel like the other one could go either way, even though I picked the
Mm-hmm.
Bills. And I even went so far on the air on the other show to say the Buffalo Bills win the football game either way. And I feel that way. This game feels like it's a little bit more uphill for Tampa. But the one wild card is TB12. And I'm sorry for all those folks that I've moved everybody over to the left now. And my Mount Rushmore starts with Tom Brady. And you can argue about who's number 2. And I think Tom Brady would even probably say Peyton Manning's number 2 or, Drew Brees. But either way, we could make –
Ben never gets mentioned, Randall.
Well, I was going to say we could make a Rushmore of the quarterbacks that's played in the last 20 years, and it could possibly be the great Rushmore of all time. So
yeah, I feel like Ben doesn't get enough credit. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
Well, and that's the one team that throughout the history of being dealt, I mean, he had to deal in those early days, but they've really tried to run the football in the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
This year you saw a different Ben Roethlisberger than you've seen in the –
It was a screw you tour.
Yeah, it was. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, brother. Any last comments?
No. Next weekend, our next Thursday night, it is going to be a lot of fun. Maybe get into some mock drafting next week. We're getting close to that NFL draft. And also, I know somewhere along the way, you and I are going to break away a little football and talk a little baseball, maybe a little fantasy baseball too.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. I before we go to that, though, I do want to talk some basketball. So, I mean, it's, maybe next week we kind of open it back up a little bit, but is Super Bowl next week or the week after?
I think we're actually a week late in the playoffs, so I think it's going to be next week.
Okay.
I did not know that for sure. If it's Super Bowl week, we'll sit down.
February 7th. No, it's the week after.
Okay.
So let's do a different show next week. Let's talk some basketball. Let's talk a little bit of baseball. We'll talk, we'll keep our eye on the coaching moves, but as always, this goes by so fast. I think it's pretty good content. So any last notes?
Oh, no, man, enjoyed it. Go.
All right, bud. So until next Thursday, hope you enjoyed it. Have a good week. Watch these games, enjoy it. Wash your hands, wear your mask, all that happy crap. See you next time, guys. Yeah, exactly. Take care of each other, right? That's important. Absolutely. So have fun doing it. Let's do it again next Thursday.
See you, chap.
All right, brother. Take care. See you guys.